just thought I'd share this HMO that we've been looking at. Now, the HMO is a really grand looking building. It's a Victorian era. It's got lots of lovely details, and it would have been in an incredibly wealthy area. Now, it had been let out as a 9-bed HMO, and we have seen the licence. But before we've put an offer in, obviously we've done quite a bit of digging about what the area's like. And one thing that's really surprised me is the amount of violent crime. I really didn't expect the statistic for that area to be quite so bad. Um, so, the data analysis has been quite key. And then we've also looked at the type of people in the area, the demographics. And again, I'm quite surprised at how high the unemployment rate was. So anyway, we've been inside and we've taken photos, and it's a functional, um, reasonable HMO. Kitchens are passable, nothing special. But the thing that's really made it difficult to place an offer on this property is the EPC is a D. The property's in a conservation area. It's in the wrong planning class. It should be sui generis, but it's a C3 category, so it's been operating without the correct planning. But the costs of bringing it up to the standards that it will need to achieve by 2028 or 2030, depending on whether we change tenants, is going to be very, very costly. So really, if we buy this property, we need to renovate it now so that we are ready for the changes in the EPC rules. So with that in mind, thinking about planning and the typical planning delays, we could buy this property and we might not do anything with it for 12 months whilst it's all going through planning. And again, because it's in a conservation area, even things like trimming a tree, we have to, we have to get planning for. Now, and another statistic that we've got here that surprised me is that actually the population in this area is falling slightly. Not massively, but it is falling. So we've also looked at the prices that other people have paid in the area. Now, something that I think is happening here, we've got similar properties that are going for similar to the asking price, but those values have been based on when the properties were lettable on an E. Whereas now when we've worked out the GDV hasn't really changed from when those properties on there were purchased, or not by much. But the problem is the amount of work that needs doing to these properties to keep them legally let is massive. So, although this property is an absolutely beautiful property, we're thinking that we're going to have to offer almost nothing. Probably 100,000 rather than the 375,000 that the vendors wanted. So anyway, we've had a good look at the layouts. We've had a play about with, ideas of what we can do. Can we add bathrooms, en suites? We're even thinking about, do we make these into studio apartments? But unless the vendor can come down to our price, that's not going to happen. So yeah, so even though this property is on the market at £375,000, we're going to be going back to the agent and saying that, we would like to make them an offer, but it will be significantly below £200,000, and we'll see what they say. Maybe they'll come back to us and say, yeah, make your offer, what is your best offer? At which point we'll have already softened the blow by telling them it's significantly below what they're asking for. And ultimately, I think, £100,000, as daft as it sounds, is a fair price. Because we know there's problems with the roof, because there's roof leaks, but without spending £5 on a scaffold, we can't get up there to inspect it. It's just that high and that awkward. So we've got at least £5 on a scaffold to spend just to know what the condition of the roof is. And then we've got the works to improve it for the EPC. So by the time we've done, we're thinking on this property, it's going to cost us £300,000 to get it to a standard where it's future proofed as a HMO or student or studio apartments for the future. So unfortunately, we're either not going to be able to buy it, or the agent's going to be very, very disappointed with the price we get or give.